Tired of the ordinary at lunchtime? Why not try something smart to chew on? The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Tuesday, December the 5th, 2023, and this is program number 1107 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, in addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com. You can also download our previous shows on that platform in podcast form. We are also streaming live on YouTube, and of course, just search for Radio Caribbean International on YouTube and be sure to subscribe to our page. The number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And don't forget, you also have that option of WhatsApp. You can call in to 724-0008 on your WhatsApp. And also you can message in your comments to tell us what's on your plate today as well. And that number again, 724-0008. Now, some birthday greetings going out to Curtania Charles. Happy birthday to you, Curtania, and we hope that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. Also, birthday greetings going out to Mr. Crispin Louis. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we're wishing you the very, very best of birthdays. Bit of history for today. In the year 771, Charlemagne became the sole king of the Franks after the death of his brother Carloman. In the year 1349, 500 Jews of Nuremberg were massacred during the Black Death riots. 1456 on this day saw an earthquake hitting the city or striking the city of Naples, killing an estimated 35,000 people on this day in history. In 1848, United States President James Polk he triggered a gold rush, the gold rush of 1849, by confirming a gold discovery in the state of California. 1933 on this day saw the prohibition ending in the United States when the 21st Amendment of the Constitution was ratified. And 1969 on this day, the 4-node ARPANET network was established between the University of California, Los Angeles, Stanford Research Institute, University of California, Santa Barbara, and the University of Utah. Of course, this is seen as the early creation of the internet, what would become the internet. In the year 2001, Ocean's 11, directed by Steven Soderbergh, starring George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, and Julia Roberts, premiered in Westwood, California. And on this day in history, on December the 5th, 2017, Russia was banned from the next Winter Olympics in South Korea over what was seen as state-sponsored doping. And we now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also glass, glassware, and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses, Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. A good afternoon to all our listeners, whether you are on island or in the diaspora. We do welcome your listenership. Now, in the world right now, we are seeing at least two hot wars, which are certainly gaining a lot of attention. That, of course, so we're almost 2 years in to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. That area for quite a number of years now, since, in fact, going back into history, but certainly since the collapse of the Soviet Union and the formation of a new Ukraine state, it has certainly been up for certain concerns being placed by Russia, which sees Ukraine almost as its own, very long-standing cultural connections between Ukraine and Russia, and it has always also been seen strategically because of its very valuable agricultural lands, lots of minerals as well, significant mining, and certainly was also a very important part of the industrial heartland of the USSR. Significant investments being made in nuclear power plants. In fact, the very famous Chernobyl nuclear power plant, which of course experienced significant issues, a meltdown many years ago. That, of course, is also in Ukraine. Now, it is also, of course, a very strategic place for Russia because it is a gateway to the Black Sea, and in particular Crimea and the ports along the Black Sea there, Azov and Sevastopol and many others are really important for trade for a country which is so massive, but because of the nature of its geography, finding itself so far north, much of its coastline is in fact pretty much ice-capped and ice-locked for many parts of the many months in a year. And of course, this has meant that it has certainly depended on these gateways in the Baltic Sea as well as in the Black Sea to be able to extend its reach around the world in terms of the Russian Navy. And so the conflict in Ukraine continues. It is does not appear to be ending anytime soon. We're seeing some gains on either end, and in fact, if anything, it appears that Russia is in fact putting in even more resources in terms of manpower and military equipment into the current conflict in Ukraine. And of course, we've seen the impact of what this has done in Europe. Europe has tried to wean itself off as best as it could to the, what could perhaps be considered umbilical cords of gas pipelines, which were feeding European industry and warming and heating European homes. And of course, that gas coming from the resource-rich Russian heartland. Now, it has certainly also had a significant impact on inflation, and we've seen already with a situation of inflation already going up because of the world increasing its demand and in the post-COVID era. But of course, Ukraine also very important agriculturally. That has had a knock-on effect in many countries around the world where things like Ukrainian wheat were very important for staples. Now, of course, that's not the only conflict that we're seeing right now in the world, and we've seen how things have begun to erupt in the Middle East once more. And this is, of course, a place which had already been facing significant warfare. On almost every decade, we saw new conflicts arising. When we can think back to the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s, and then the Iraq-Kuwait Gulf War of the early 1990s, moved on later on, of course, to the attempts to try to get out Saddam Hussein and other areas that were supporting ISIS and Al-Qaeda, even before ISIS in that region as well. Continued conflict in Yemen, and major conflicts continued as well in Syria, where there was effectively an ongoing civil war between the Assad regime and, again, a lot of individuals who are very much keen on seeing the collapse of that regime. And some people may also say that there's a bit of religion in the mix as well. And of course, we've seen that in places like Lebanon, which has been very much impacted by civil war over the years. And of course, let's not forget places like Turkey that have seen their issues as well. And even further up in the Caucasus, in disputes between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It has certainly been a hot spot for a lot of conflict, and the one we perhaps have known and seen and has been spoken about, gotten a lot of coverage over the years, has been the matter of Palestine and Israel. And whether there may have been other considerations at play there. Of course, we saw even before this conflict erupted, a speech given by Mr. Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, at the United Nations. Many thought that it may have certainly been a signal of potential conflict to come. Even announcements a couple of months back of the desire to explore offshore oil fields in the Mediterranean off the Gaza Strip. And now, of course, since the Yom Kippur attack, the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, on Israel, the clear retaliation by Israel into Gaza continues. The ceasefire, or the pause, has come to an end, and the conflict there certainly is continuing. And persons are raising concerns that we are seeing increased activity in the West Bank, which is the other region of what are supposed to be the Palestinian territories, which still has not become a state in its entirety. It is still effectively influenced and controlled by Israel. They do not have control over their airspace. They do not have control over their marine space, and of course, immense, extensive infiltration of settlers, Israeli settlers in the West Bank. And so this has been a long-standing issue, which we, of course, have been seeing coming to the fore, and certainly, although it is pretty far away, the average West Indian is certainly very much aware of that. But coming much closer to home, right here in our neck of the woods, we've been seeing some rising overtures which are sounding somewhat belligerent, which are suggesting that it may not be a zone of peace anymore within the Caribbean, and certainly within this hemisphere. And that is because of renewed calls within the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela to the matter of Essequibo and the region that is within the sovereign state of Guyana, has been recognized as that for quite some time, but has been claimed by Venezuela for a very long time, going way back into the 1800s. And of course, much of this was from a period when the United Kingdom was still very much prominent on the world stage, and had colonies, and of course this matter was a matter that went to arbitration and had been declared, I think, back in 1899. But Venezuela never, in fact, accepted this border, which was, and this region, which had been largely controlled by British Guyana for quite some time. The Guyana is a very interesting region. It is a region that effectively spanned a number of different language groups. So there is, in fact, a Spanish Guyana within Venezuela, a British Guyana within, of course, which is now Guyana as we know it, a Dutch Guyana of Suriname, as well as a French Guyana, which many St. Lucians migrated to Cayenne many decades back, as well as a Portuguese Guyana. That entire region between the Orinoco and the Amazon, largely seen as being part of this region, which has been identified as a potential homeland for or origin of a number of the peoples who came to the islands very early on, the Amerindian migrations that we've seen. And it certainly is still a very wild place. By that I mean it is very underdeveloped. It is pristine. It still has lots of rainforest, which has never been developed. It is very, very extensive, very underpopulated region of this world with significant biodiversity and, of course, as well, significant resources. And many of these countries are now trying to develop those resources, including the resources found underground and under the seabed. And, of course, Guyana has hit black gold, and they have, of course, have now become a significant player and have likely to become one of the wealthiest countries in the world, really, if, in fact, they can manage this great boom of oil and gas, which has, in fact, been discovered in these waters. Beyond the border in Venezuela, they too, of course, have had resources that have been identified for quite some time as being some of the largest oil reserves, if not the largest oil reserve in the world. And in addition to what is found in the Lake Maracaibo region, there's a significant amount of oil and gas in the Orinoco River Basin as well. In fact, Venezuela was one of the very early centers of the oil and gas industry in the world. And, of course, it is as a result of that Venezuela and Trinidad were those early players and was able to, in fact, become at one point in time one of the richest, if not the richest country in Latin America. And very significant expansion of their economy. But unfortunately, they suffered, of course, from the likes of Dutch disease, overemphasis on one sector of the economy to the demise or to the suffering of other sectors. And that is certainly what came to much of, and still is a major impediment in that country of Venezuela. And so as to how they now are positioning themselves, especially given the fact that since the rise of Chavez and the socialist revolution that he brought forward, and now, of course, Nicolas Maduro, who is and has been the president for quite some time, he is now also facing tremendous pressure. This is a state that has come under severe sanctions by the United States of America. It has been declared many things by the United States. There's been quite a lot of discussion over political interference and the state of play in Venezuela. And many individuals are seeing this current move by Venezuela to ramp up interest and discussion over the matter of the Essequibo region is in fact an attempt at potentially distracting individuals away from this upcoming general election, which has been promised and carded for next year in Venezuela. The Essequibo region, well over 160,000 square kilometers, nearly 2/3 of that of the current Guyana, Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and of course which shares a border with Venezuela, is what is under claim at this time. Now, we do have two interesting clips, one coming from Deutsche Welle, and it gives a bit of a sense as to some analysis on the entire matter of the referendum which was recently held by the Venezuelan authorities, and of course that is something that has caused a lot of concern in Guyana. They in fact went to the ICJ, the International Court of Justice based in The Hague in the Netherlands, and in fact a ruling was made last week. And this piece coming out of this German newscast gives some sense as to what's happening, what's the sentiment, and what is the thinking potentially behind some of these actions by Venezuela. Let's take a listen.
Now to Venezuela, where people are voting in a controversial referendum that the government hopes will strengthen its claim over a territory in neighbouring Guyana. The non-binding vote aims to measure popular support for Venezuela's historical claim over Essequibo, and it comes after the UN's top court ordered Caracas to take no action that would alter Guyana's control over the territory. Essequibo is 160,000 square kilometres, about the size of Greece, and makes up about 2/3 of Guyana's landmass. Gas and oil were discovered there in 2015. Our next report will give you a sense of the mood in Guyana and in Venezuela in the run-up to the vote.
This is Essequibo. Life is slow here. Jungle and farmland against the backdrop of mountains. At this market, farmers auction off produce.
We are praying, we are hoping, and we are having faith that nothing negative would come. You know what, all these rumors that is happening, we are just praying and hoping and having faith that this is all lies.
Venezuelans say Essequibo belongs to them because the region was within its boundaries during the Spanish colonial period. President Nicolas Maduro's government has also stepped up its campaign since the discovery of oil and gas. The referendum asks if Essequibo should be a state within Venezuela.
We will not be calm until these people decide what we are going to do with the Essequibo territory. And it is you, dear brothers, comrades. It's not the bullets, it's not the cannons, it is the vote.
Back in Essequibo, people are used to being ignored by the government. Information on the referendum has reached them mostly through social media, and most of it inaccurate. They're angry with their own officials, but that doesn't mean they want to be part of Venezuela either.
I will tell you the truth, nobody, indigenous people, are not prepared for any takeover. Nobody has informed us actually. Now it is being put on the table by us here as leaders trying to inform our people of the dangers that is above us at the moment.
It's unclear how the results of the referendum will play out, if it passes. But many here in Essequibo fear the worst for the future.
Let's get more from journalist Oscar Schlenker, who joins us from the Venezuelan capital, Caracas. Welcome, Oscar. Are authorities expecting a big turnout?
Well, Phil, so far turnout is less than expected. At least what we're seeing now is very low turnout, which is in contrast to the opposition's self-organized primaries in October. We do have to take into account that this is a fairly quick process, so affluence of voters are taking less than a minute to vote. We have seen in other elections the strategy of government supporters flooding the polling stations towards the end of the day in order to keep the election going and justify giving results much later in the evening. So that is something that we could be expecting today as well, given that most of the voters are part of the government's militancy. So most of them are supporters, public workers, and people who receive benefits from Maduro's administration.
Right, so this debate about Essequibo has been around for decades, so why hold this referendum now? Presumably this is to do with the oil and gas find.
Well, yes, there are many theories. First of all, it's a good opportunity to measure support for the electoral system ahead of presidential elections next year. It also serves as a rundown to welcome the recently appointed Electoral Council. Politically, some analysts say it's a distraction to more serious problems in Venezuela. Others point at Maduro's administration seeking support from fringe voters. But the most unfortunate reason, I have to say, is this area's natural resources of oil, gas, and minerals. Guyana, for years, has allowed private companies to exploit this rainforest with little or no oversight and under the knowledge of Venezuela's government. Now, with sanctions and human rights investigations against Maduro's administration, it's also a way to lay grounds into the international court system and justify some sort of support through this referendum, even though it's non-binding.
And is Guyana saying anything about this referendum?
Well, both countries have been showing military support in defending the Essequibo. Guyana's president, Irfan Ali, raised a flag a few meters from the Venezuelan borders in the disputed Essequibo and spent a night with his troops there. Guyana's government also asked the International Court of Justice to halt today's referendum. However, the UN's top court only ordered Venezuela to refrain from taking any action that would modify the disputed territory's current situation. Both countries saw that ruling as a victory. But the real losers in all this are the actual inhabitants and indigenous populations of this territory that suddenly have some unwanted attention from both countries and the companies that want to exploit it.
So you mentioned politicians there spending the night with their troops. Is there a risk of military escalation?
Well, the most likely outcome to this situation is that it settles in court. Although Venezuela has the upper hand in military power and has been showing their teeth, Guyana has much more powerful allies. The question is, would these allies be willing to defend Guyana's government or the interest of companies ready to extract the natural resources in this territory?
Okay, thank you for that, Oscar. Oscar Schlenker in Caracas.
And that, of course, gave some sense as to what was happening in the lead up to the referendum. Since then, of course, the referendum has happened, and comments coming out of Guyana and responses there. We'd like to take in now with an interview which was done by former president of Guyana, Bharat Jagdeo. He's currently the vice president of Guyana currently. And in fact, this interview happened over on the sidelines of COP28 over in Dubai. And of course, just to get a sense of some of the sentiments of the Guyanese authorities on what has been transpiring. Let's take a listen to this interview.
The Maduro government proclaimed victory after the referendum. I believe that the consequences are disastrous and the outcome is disastrous for Maduro. We knew that once the referendum went ahead, that they will succeed in getting a yes vote. Venezuela, for the past 50 years at least, has been telling the people of Venezuela that Essequibo belongs to them. So you've seen many opposition parties in Venezuela say, why do you need a referendum to go and reaffirm that Essequibo belongs to us? But what was important for Maduro would have been the size of the victory. And from all that we have seen, it was a low turnout victory that he had. So they claim that about 50% of the eligible voters turned out at this referendum. This was the Electoral Council. We know that that figure is a rigged figure. All day long we saw images from the polling places and reports from the Latin American press pointing out that it was an abysmally low turnout and people were not interested in the referendum. So miraculously, they extended the time frame in the evening, claiming that they had large numbers of people at polling places, which wasn't factual, and then manufactured a 50% turnout of eligible voters. But even if we assume for a moment that the 50% turnout was real, it meant that only half of the eligible voters showed up at the poll, and of the half that showed up at the poll, at least 5% voted no. Maybe 5% voted no. So that meant that it was less than half of the total eligible voters who voted yes at this referendum that was held. That cannot be seen as a mandate. That cannot be seen as a victory, especially in light of what I said earlier, that they've been hyping people up, these major campaigns they've had, and then the historical fact that they've always told people, lied to them, the Venezuelans, that Essequibo belonged to them. So we believe that Maduro had no choice but to rig the outcome, and he had no choice but to claim victory. But in fact, it was a defeat given the low turnout. People just rejected that. They saw it as a distraction from the electoral problems that Maduro faces at home.
In court during the hearings, Delcy Rodriguez has said that whatever the outcome, that the Venezuelan government wouldn't turn its back on what comes out of the referendum.
Yes.
How does Guyana deal with that?
Well, Maduro has been saying to the leaders that he has no intention of invading Guyana. He said this to CARICOM leaders and to all of those who spoke with him. We have had the opportunity to speak with many of those leaders here at COP, and they've all said in their conversations with him, this is what he has said. The lawyer to the ICJ said the same thing. Delcy Rodriguez said they're not going to turn their back. We don't believe on the outcome. We don't believe they have a mandate for anything. And secondly, that they will invade Guyana. And if you look at the assessment done by CNN and many international bodies, they believe too, because they speak to a lot of people in Venezuela, in the military, in the US intelligence circles. People believe that Venezuela will not invade. But we cannot. The leadership in Guyana cannot just take assurances from the Maduro government that they will not invade the country, even if that is so. We have to be prepared for any eventuality, and we must not let our guard down or let ourselves be less vigilant. We have to be very vigilant in this upcoming period, because the Venezuelan leadership has shown itself to be very unpredictable. And therefore, that is why we have been working with our partners to ensure that we enhance defense cooperation, that should the worst outcome happen, that we can defend our country by all means necessary.
What does defense cooperation mean?
Defense cooperation means defense cooperation. It means that we are engaging, we are coordinating efforts. Those who are engaged with us are working with us to build our capacity, or not just planning capability, but to look at protecting our territorial integrity. We are not a belligerent country, and we are not one that will threaten Venezuela. So we are acting purely in a precautionary manner and in a defense capability. But that doesn't mean that should they defy the International Court of Justice or defy the consensus in the world, that we will just sit down and accept it. And therefore, this is defense cooperation means preparing for the worst outcome.
So if Venezuela were to attempt something even remotely like what happened with Ancoco, Guyana is ready?
Yeah, I don't want to deal with hypotheticals because we don't want to seem as belligerent as Venezuela has been, because that's language for them. We have made it clear we are before the ICJ. We will not remove our case from the ICJ. The ICJ has made it clear that they intend to hear the case to its finality. We believe we have a strong case. Venezuela will have a very hard time proving that the 1899 award was flawed. And we believe that we'd have an entirely positive ruling in our favor once the substantive matter is concluded definitively by the court. And therefore, we are interested in pursuing this peaceful means, a mean that is part of the Geneva Agreement. And therefore, we don't want to sound belligerent.
Right. So as you're being vigilant and in preparing for these hearings and so on, how has that affected the work of government, and does things slow down because you're concentrating on this issue?
No. We are focused on our development agenda. We're focused on exercising sovereignty over our resources and utilizing those resources in sovereign Guyanese territory, all 83,000 square miles, utilizing those resources in favor and to the benefit of all of our people. We have not changed or slackened the pace on any of our development programs. So the work of government continues, and I would say to the people of Guyana, don't get caught up in this incessant, almost traumatic experience of worrying unnecessarily and sharing things that may not be the truth. Just last night, the Guyana Defense Force had to issue a statement. People were circulating that a flag was raised over our territory. It was not so. But by the time they clarified that, tens of thousands of shares had been done in Guyana. It's as though we have this collective view of self-punishment and not just antagonizing people, but causing a great deal of uneasiness and worry to many people in our country. I want them to be rest assured that we're doing all necessary to keep our borders safe, and we will take whatever steps necessary to do so. And Venezuela will not succeed on this issue. Will not.
No, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Right, and of course that was Vice President Barrett Jagdeo speaking on the Venezuela-Guyana Essequibo matter, which of course has become a lot more controversial over the past couple of weeks as a result of that referendum undertaken in Venezuela on this question. We're going to take a break at this point in time because we're due to take in our weather report. So we do that, and when we come back, we'll take in some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Need tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses, Grozile, and Slack Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Make your home merry and bright with Island Style's massive Christmas sale. Our wide range of porcelain and ceramic tiles are on sale up to 50% off. And that's not all. Save up to 15% off. Bathrooms with bundle and save. The more you buy, the more you save. On gorgeous bathroom vanities, bathtubs, faucets, shower glass, toilets, and more. Plus, contractors and tilers are in for a treat with our special discounts on tiling tools and accessories. Sale on now at all locations: Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort. Or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. It's time to deck the halls, deck the walls, or even deck the deck with huge Christmas savings only at Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
Of course, Sulu 1.1 is now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from the east near 20 miles per hour or 31 kilometers per hour. The weather fair to partly cloudy and breezy with a few showers. And there is an advisory in there which reads small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to brisk winds and locally rough seas. The forecast for the Antilles, partly cloudy to cloudy and breezy with a few scattered showers over the southern, leeward and northern windward islands. Elsewhere, fair to partly cloudy and breezy with a few showers. We now move over to the weather summary. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate to brisk easterly winds and locally rough seas across the eastern Caribbean region for the next few days. A weak shear line will continue to produce cloudy periods with some showers over the northern and lesser Antilles during the forecast period. A surface trough located over the western tropical Atlantic is drifting slowly westward. This system is expected to affect our region from late Wednesday. And this was your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Make your home merry and bright with Island Style's massive Christmas sale. Our wide range of porcelain and ceramic tiles are on sale up to 50% off. And that's not all. Save up to 15% off. Bathrooms with bundle and save. The more you buy, the more you save. On gorgeous bathroom vanities, bathtubs, faucets, shower glass, toilets, and more. Plus, contractors and tilers are in for a treat with our special discounts on tiling tools and accessories. Sale on now at all locations: Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort. Or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. It's time to deck the halls, deck the walls, or even deck the deck with huge Christmas savings only at Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. We've got about 15 minutes to go before the hour of 2 o'clock, and we're going to go to the phone lines at this time, taking some calls. Good afternoon, and welcome to the lunchroom. What is on your plate today?
Yeah, Mr. George, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you, sir. How are you?
And to your family, all yours.
They're good, thank you. Thanks for asking.
Nice interviews. Yeah. Good stuff. In terms of providing, updates with what's really going on.
Indeed.
Yeah. It's boys, two-thirds, roughly two-thirds of Ghana, They ain't no Ghana again.
Well, it's interesting because Ghana is such an interesting place. The population is really within a very small slither along the coastline.
But notwithstanding that, if you value, a country's its potential,
Oh yes, certainly.
Even in business, you have opportunity.
Certainly,
Because
it has a huge potential. Yes.
Because that is why they were the fastest growing economy last year.
Yes.
And they perceived to be the wealthiest countries.
And some people will tell you that they probably have not even begun to grow.
Exactly. They perceived to be the wealthiest country, per capita and so on and so forth. If they have to really optimally use the resources. On the other hand, if they have to, like a lot of countries do, I don't like to use third world countries, but this is kind of derogatory. But we have seen in history how, these resources due to poor governance,
right,
go down the drain and not benefit the masses, But let's hope, But what does that say, on the other hand, to the Chavez experience? That's the end of it.
The Chavez experience.
Yeah, like experiment. Sorry.
Oh, experiment.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very interesting question that you're raising.
Yeah, because you check the rhetoric against seems to be anti-Maduro, even among friends. You know what I mean? Nobody's talking about Venezuela per se, but for example, yesterday you were talking about what is what was driving his moves with regards to what do you call it?
It's interesting because
referendum.
yes, and I'm not sure.
And
I mean, he's.
don't seem to be,
in terms of on the diplomatic front, certainly CARICOM was generally very much pro Venezuela and has been. And in terms of that block of votes within the OAS, and certainly beyond the OAS, even at the UN level. And then, of course, we saw the influence of the United States with the Lima group, eroding that somewhat in the case of St. Lucia and Jamaica. But then he's now found himself in a situation where you actually have a lot more left-leaning leaders in Latin America now. In the case of Colombia, for instance, Lula in Brazil, Bolivia, of course, and many other countries in Latin America are more left-leaning and would be generally more sympathetic towards, even in Colombia, which had been generally a right-wing for a very long time. There's a left-leaning leader there too. So I'm not sure if it is that he believes, well, he's got more backing now in Latin America, so he can, and he's looking, of course, for a sort of a safe space where he can sort of.
So he can value our friendship.
So I'm not sure that he doesn't value the friendship, but maybe they didn't think that it would cause too much of a stir.
Well, maybe we have to reciprocate because, as far as diplomacy and foreign policy is concerned, I think a lot of countries, vulnerable countries like ours, I mean, there's no other way to go but pragmatism, because we have to manage the Taiwan situation.
Right.
We have to manage the Israel-Palestinian thing, because we have relations with Israel.
And we have it with the Arab Bowl now. We're getting aid from Saudi Arabia, from Kuwait, from the UAE.
It's with the kind of governance Saudi Arabia has.
Yeah.
But, we have to deal with that too. You know what I'm saying? And of course, we always know we had to do that kind of stuff with America.
Right.
And England and them. But now, even our newfound friends, so we into the age of pragmatism as the most, the appropriate foreign exchange diplomatic approach. And this is what it is, and see how far we could get without stepping on toes and getting what we want, stepping softly and getting what we want of all our partners.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of Venezuela, coming back to that, I mean, Venezuela has long seen, has long been very expansionary, even in the Caribbean Sea, for instance. With the Avis Island, for instance, they claim that, and by extension claim a considerable amount of the Caribbean Sea as part of the exclusive economic zone. And then, of course, that actually is not to the benefit of a country like St. Lucia. We have one of the smallest EEZs in the Caribbean. I think it's only like about 15,000 square kilometers or so of marine space. So, I mean, that is certainly another issue. I don't think there's going to be any change in that, if anything, really. That's probably is just our lot in life, so to speak, as a country. But Venezuela has certainly claimed a lot of that and has been expansionary for quite some time. This new matter, I personally don't think anything much is going to come of it. I think a lot of it has just been distractionary more than anything else. Yeah. I definitely think so. Well, I know, and rightfully so, because a lot of people are saying in this current era where you have a Russia.
If either Maduro move or he get desperate, you know.
Well, yeah. So you're who knows? Some people may say he's looking for another country to claim. You never know.
Well, you know, I mean, it's been said that in spite of all black people did for their revolution, Bolivar and
Jean-Baptiste Bidot and others, yes.
And things.
Pétion.
It wasn't nice to. They haven't been, you know, gracious to black people. You know. Notwithstanding, they have you know. But then again, this is you know, diplomacy. You know, to spread themselves globally. If this oil, the oil thing. But in terms of within the society, they haven't really treated black people, you know, commensurate with what the benefits they had.
Well, that issue has been fairly consistent across all of Latin America, and that is the discrimination towards.
In fact, everywhere.
Yeah, well, everywhere, yes, but it goes below the radar quite often in Latin America. You know, the subjugation, the treatment of Africans in Latin America has been a very long and unfortunate story, and how these countries effectively wanted to become whiter. You know, their immigration policies.
Look at
Brazil, yes, exactly, and Argentina, similar way situation there too. In fact, so it's interesting to see how things are going, and it will also be a question mark, even with respect to Guyana, because we got serious divisions, ethnic divisions in Guyana. Guyana needs more people, and when you look at the CARICOM region, right, you can potentially say, well, you know, Haiti is actually the most populous country right now within CARICOM.
Guyana is how many? 83,000 square kilometers?
83,000 square miles. And
population is
not even a million.
Not even a million?
Not even a million. So
40,000.
Yeah, it's about, I think, 750,000 or so, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are lots of Guyanese in the diaspora who may come home.
There's a density of population of 10, you know.
Very, very low. Yeah, exactly. One of the lowest in the world.
So that's where they measure in the potential of these people to order them to prosper once they, you know, they set the right policies.
But then, if we were to have a holistic approach across the Caribbean and theoretically say, well, you know, Guyana, you need another 1 million people or so, or 2 million people to really begin developing effectively, would there be a willingness to do that? I mean, given we talk about freedom of movement and we're speaking about opportunities for everybody, I mean, there's been a statement that has been made by CARICOM that they're going to be looking towards free movement of people by 2024. But it'll be very interesting to see if that comes to light with respect to that reality, and as well in Guyana's case, whether there'll be a willingness to do that.
Well, maybe it might be the skills too might be important. What skills you will be bringing.
Right,
People,
right.
you know?
And we've seen how that has been very controversial, like even in Trinidad and Tobago, and the politics there, with the PNM and in the oil industry. Many people in the south of Trinidad, the Afro-Trinidadians in the south, came from the quote-unquote small islands.
Yeah.
So St. Vincent, Grenada, even St. Lucia, Barbados, and went to work in those oil refineries, oil fields. So are you going to be seeing a similar kind of wave again of migration to Guyana, and what that will mean in terms of the politics of Guyana too?
Yes.
It will be very, very interesting.
In terms of the racial construct.
Exactly.
And one last thing, it seems that, I was talking to a Guyanese recently, and he was telling me, never mind Ufan Ali is the Prime Minister?
The President of Guyana, Ufan Ali, yes?
The one
Bharat Jagdeo, yes.
He calling the shots still.
Well, yes, a lot of people believe so, eh?
Okay, you've heard that already, eh?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, a lot of people believe he's the man behind Ufan Ali.
Yes.
Anyway.
All right, then, caller. Thanks very much for that contribution, and have a good one. And, of course, the number to call in is 4523046. Let's take in another call at this time. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. And what is on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad, huh?
Wonderful.
But what I've seen in this world, England went all over the world and put trouble, and they moved in, and now they're back in. Of England, the trouble in Guyana there, that was the English trouble,
Well, yes, it started out in the 1800s, 1840, I think it was.
Israel now just slaughtering people.
Oh, yeah.
That was English trouble as well, eh?
It was European construct.
Now, Turkey and
the Kurds?
Over Cyprus.
Oh, Greece.
They went to war. Kuwait and Iraq.
Well,
Iraq wanted. They said, "That's my country."
Yeah. Well, in fact, they would have. The thinking was that because there was so much oil that they needed to divide the oil wealth, so to speak. So they created Kuwait to take half of it and Iraq half. So that's why.
So when you study the world, to me, the language I'll use, England was a shiftera.
What's the expression? A shiftera? I don't know.
Sorry.
Well, I don't know, but certainly a lot of the conflicts that we find have a lot to do with the colonial boundaries that have been crafted.
Run up and say, no, we'll do so and so with that country. We'll do so and so with that country. But right now is the oil bringing the trouble.
But caller, that isn't the legacy of boundaries to begin with, eh? I mean, we've seen empires come and go. Before the United Kingdom, there were similar sort of situations there. And so these legacies do have impacts long into the future. I mean, the Roman Empire still has impacts all over North Africa and Europe and Asia.
But so even the Caribbean, if the Caribbean, say they were joined like a continent, there would be a lot of trouble. It's because we are islands. We separate by water. That's why, because the French and the St. Lucian and the Martinican, you would have found a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Well, caller, thanks very much for that contribution. And we're going to have to end it there, though, because we're already out of time.
Yes.
Have a good one.
But boy, I see you get Suku back, man. Long time I didn't hear Suku.
All right, caller. Thanks very much for that. Yes.
Okay.
We welcome all our callers.
Yeah,
and, of course, thanks very much to all those who have been calling in and listening. We'll be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another program of The Lunchroom. Have a good one.